Hello Victor, this is your new tractor, and just because it's coming down to you before we're going to get there, I'm just making this little video to show you some basics about it, so you at least know how to drive it off the truck and, you know, operate the basic things. So we're just going to have a bit of a walk around it all and point out, maybe not everything, but you know, the basic stuff that you need to know. So first of all, to open your tilt the cab and tilt the bonnet, you've got to open this radiator door on the side here, this is your hydraulic cooler. The radiator for the engine is up there, of course, with the engine driven fan, whereas this has got a hydraulically driven fan for the oil cooler. And down the bottom here are the switches to raise the cab and the bonnet. Now when you raise the bonnet, you know, that there, and as I go like that, watch what happens here. Now if you raise that all the way, when you get to the end it just blows the release valve. See, you won't hurt it if you hold it, but once it's there, just let it go, right? Now that on its own isn't safe to work under. I wouldn't consider it safe anyway. I mean, Plaisance obviously do, because they didn't have a prop for it or a stay for it. So we've made this stay here. Okay, so that sits in there. When the bonnet is down, the bonnet actually comes down over this part here so that can't jump out. Right, so it's pretty securely locked in, we believe. And to get it in the up position, you've got to wriggle it back this way. So you've got to wriggle it that back, and as that goes back, see, this comes up, so you get that out. Alright, and then when you go up there, you can lock that in there, and once that's in, you can probably leave it like that, but if you let the bonnet down, like hit the switch again and let it down, and it'll just lock down like that. Okay, so that's an important safety thing, so that's why we've got stickers on there, and stickers on there to tell you to always use the bonnet prop. Now to raise the cab is the other switch, of course. These are a double pole switch, and if you don't push it all the way, it activates one of the poles and not the other. So if you go like that, just a little, sometimes, it's not doing it now, but sometimes you can activate the pump, but not the valve. But anyway, when you raise it, just go like this. And as it gets to the top, you've got to pull that stay in. So, alright, once it gets to there, you pull that in. And then you let it back down. And when you let it down, pull it down till you blow the release valve again, right? Right, like that. And then it's locked in sturdy. I mean, it rocks around because it's got very flexible cab mounts, so you might think it seems a bit unstable, but I can assure you, as long as you've pulled it down hard to blow that release valve, you know, so it's locking with weight onto that lock there, then it's secure. Okay, so then you can get in underneath it all. Now, oils, you've got lots of pumps here. Here are the extra pumps we've added, the vane pump there, the piston pump here. That's the original piston pump for your ground drive. This is the piston pump to drive the feed-in rollers and the sweepers. And this vane pump operates all your linkage and cylinders, you know, your 3-point linkage, your top link, and your remotes. You've got other pumps as well, which we've also changed around this side. There was a single pump here, and we've added a double pump. So one of those does the clutch, the PDO clutch, the twin disc transmission, and the other one drives the cooling fan for the hydraulic radiator. Anyway, I'm the other way around actually, I think, but anyway, that doesn't matter much. So there's the cooling fan in there, hydraulic motor on the fan, and all that oil comes out of this tank here. Right, the level for that is there. There's a dipstick there, but there's also a electric warning on the dash if the oil level gets low on that. Okay, we've added this tank, by the way, that tall tank on the top. The reason we've done that, we needed extra oil capacity because of the bigger pumps. We also wanted gravity feed into this piston pump because they don't like to be drawing oil up from down at a lower level. This one can do it because it's working with a closed loop and it's being charged, you know, by the charge pump. So the charge pump is drawing the oil up from this tank here, whereas this one isn't charged. It's drawing directly from the tank, so it wants to be gravity fed. So now this tank, by the way, all the oil returns up through the filter, 10 micron filter there. That's a bigger capacity filter than the original one, so whenever you're ordering filters for it, don't go by the Plaisance number. It'll be exactly the same filter, but this one's longer. Same brand and everything, but this is a longer one, giving it increased flow capacity. So yeah, just be careful of any confusion there. The oil in this tank should never be low, because it comes into this tank, right, and then it overflows. There's a spillway over on this corner, right, and it overflows, so it maintains that level. It'll vary depending whether it's running or not and what angle you're parked on a little bit, but should always be, you know, either there or above, you know. And if the oil level is low, then it shows up in this bottom tank, which will show up on that dipstick there. Okay, so yeah, so that oil, you know, is giving you the gravity feed here for the piston pump. There's you can see welded in there, there's a plate there to act as a sediment trap, so if there was any contaminant in that tank, it would be caught there, and there's a sediment drain there, so extra filtration for there, and there's also a sediment drain there as well. Now that gauge there is for your PDO clutch pressure. Now we've had to modify that as well, which is there's a timing unit in there, there's a dump valve there, and a flow restrictor here. That's all working with the clutch pack. Now that's the coil that engages the PDO clutch. That one's not used, by the way, because this clutch pack's actually a marine drive for driving a propeller, so that's forward, that's reverse, so that one's not used. The reverse clutch pack is not even in this transmission, so if you need a coil for that, you've got a spare one sitting right there. But when you power up this coil, we've designed all this extra system here, so that when you first engage it, you'll see the pressure is only below 100 psi, probably, I think about 80 psi, something like that, while it starts up. So it starts up nice and slowly, and after 20 seconds you'll see it gets full pressure, which is, I don't know, 250 to 300, but below 300, but you know, getting up towards that. So just be aware that, you know, when the machine's working, your pressure should always be up, you know, around that 250 to 300 mark. If it were, you know, if something were wrong, that this stayed open, and I can't imagine how that could happen, you know, if something failed with it, it would remain closed rather than open, you know, and then you'd stall the tractor when you were starting it, you know. But if it did stay on for some reason, then, you know, you'd be operating at this low pressure, and then under heavy load you'd find your PDO clutch would slip. But anyway, that's all part of our mod. Also, here's this extra valve we fitted, this Bravani valve to operate the feed-in rollers and the sweeper. Now those levers don't need to be there at all. I mean, you can manually operate it from there, but they're just on there, and it doesn't hurt to have them there when we were setting up, and if you were doing any diagnostics on it, you can see if they're being operated. But you've got pilot control in the cab, which is, you know, via these hydraulic lines. These lines here control the spool to open up these ones, you know, manually. So if all your electronics fail, you've got your manual control from the cab of these valves, and then you've also got your electric coils down here, controlled electronically with the cruise control. Okay, dipstick for the transmission is around here. So you can see the dipstick in there, which is meant to be checked with the engine idling, and of course the PDO turned off. Okay, so that runs its own oil. That's one of the pumps up on the engine, on the back of the Cummins engine there, and that runs its own oil inside this housing itself for the PDO clutch. But all the other pumps work off these combined tanks here. That tank there, and this big tank here on the side here, and you know, they're both the same oil. One feeds into the other. Okay, so I think that's about it there. Probably everything under the bonnet for the engine probably should be pretty straightforward for you. You probably know more about it than I do. Can't think of anything I need to tell you there. Alright, so now we're going to go let that bonnet down. We can't, you know, that's locked in tight there at the moment, that bonnet stay, so we've just got to lift that up, hit the switch here, and we lift that up all the way till it blows the release valve. Alright, once it's up like that, then we can grab it there and just got to take that off, bring it down here, and put it in there, and as we let it go, you'll see it drops in like that. Okay, and then you're right to let the bonnet down, and you'll see as we let the bonnet down, it doesn't make any noise on the way down, just gravity brings it down, just flicking the switch, and as it comes down you'll see this stay comes in over the top of it, right, and now it can't come up, see, so it's effectively locked in there. It can't come out the other end unless it slides up on this ramp here, see, so there's no way I believe that can come detached. Okay, now to, actually Jenny, can you come and hold this for a sec while I let this cab down, and because I've got to hit the button and hit the red lever at the same time, so so I'm reaching in here to the switch, and I've got to lift the cab up and push that out at the same time, so while it's rocking it's very easy to move. So, yeah, that should add weight on it. So I'm going to lift it up, push it that way. Now, when I let this down, if I watch this cab here in the corner, right, lift the cab up, you watch there, it comes down, and then if I hit it more, it pulls the cab forward. Right? And if you pull it like that, it's really flexing the cab mounts, you know, and also the cab mounts, you'll see them up here, you know, really stretching those cab mounts, right, and they'll also, that one on that side will bottom out metal to metal while you're driving. So what you've got to do is then hit it back again so that it comes back, right? See it coming back there? But if I keep going back, eventually it gets to the point where it starts to lift the cab up. Right? And that's where we want it. We want it to meet it in the corner, so we want it to come down as far as it can, but we don't want it to start going forward. So more it goes forward, right? So then bring it back and sit it in the corner. There you go. And then the cab is sitting right, sitting correctly. So then we close this, we turn that and lock that shut. Alright, just to show you what else we've done, we've had to make up all this frame here to lower this top pin connection, so it's lowered by, I don't know, 300 mil or a bit more, 350 mil I think. And we've also had to raise the top pin position on the tractor, so we've had to make up that frame there, so that they were the two original pin positions. But because they're so close to the pin here on the linkage arms, and these ones are so far apart, it meant the machine didn't lift parallel or anywhere near parallel. You know, as you raised it up, it was pointing straight up in the air. So that's why we've done those two. We've made up that top link, special top link for it with a counterbalance valve on it, so it won't move on you. We've added the extra remotes. So these are the standard remotes, these two here and the two top ones on this side that work off the joystick, and then these vertical ones are the bigger flow rate ones working off that Ravenni valve on both sides, and they've also got the tank returns down the bottom there. Come down here, those, so you can see one plugged in on the other side, that one there, that's for the feed-in rake times, you know, and this will be for the sweepers, which will work off these other remotes up here, these two up here. Okay. Right, what else have we done? We've changed these the quick hitch to suit the mulcher. Anyway, I don't think there's anything else you need to know about there. Opening the door and getting in, when you open the door and swing it back, see that pointer there, that latches into the cab there. So if I just push it shut, there it is, and then you use your door handle to climb in. So your steps the tyre forms part of the access to the cab, so you use the steps to climb up, then step on the tyre, then into the cab. So just make sure the tyres aren't slippery and that you've got a good grip there. Make sure this door is latched in properly. Up here, the door latch, if you reach behind there, you can grab that little trigger there and that unlatches it. And you can also unlatch it from inside the cab too. Okay? So make sure that's in. Jenny, can I get you on this again while I climb up there? Okay, so make sure you've got a good grip here. Climb up there, step on your tyre, and in you go. Righto. And then, pass me the phone. And then once you're in, to close your door, you just push on this button here, and the door will, as long as you're not facing uphill, will swing around. There you go. We're facing a little bit downhill at the moment, otherwise you normally have to reach around and pull that in. That lever brings the steering column back. Start it, just turn it on. Should be in the start position here. I think it needs to be in the start position there. That's the air conditioner switch there, air conditioner fan, and turn the compressor on and off. That is the fan for the pressurising the cab, for the filter. Okay, so I'd suggest you want that on all the time, as well as your air conditioner. Alright, let's turn the key on. There's the dash. Fire it up. Now, if anything's wrong, it'll beep at you and tell you. There's a red light there that'll tell you, for example, if the hydraulic oil level's low, that'll be flashing, the beeper will be going, and there'll be a symbol here to say that there's fluid is low. Handbrake, if I put the handbrake on, it's got the park brake signal there, and the start sign has gone red now, so that means if I try to drive it, it won't let me, because I've got to get that start sign green. So I take off the handbrake by just turning that. That applies the handbrake, and I turn it to take it off. Okay. Now this here, got to learn a bit of French here. Start, route, however you pronounce it. That's to drive. So if we lift the mulcher up now, so I pull the joystick back and lift up the mulcher. Come up and give it some revs. Down under the joystick here, you got that switch there, that's forward, neutral and reverse. Okay. Now that shows up on the dash, so if you look, got a bad reflection there. Neutral, reverse, neutral, forward. Okay. So if I stick it in reverse, and now route is in green there, and if I rev it up, it'll start moving. You hear the reverse buzzer going. Put your camera up there to see what's behind us. Okay. If I flick it into forward, I can keep my foot on the accelerator, by the way, while I change from forward to reverse, and I'll just flick the switch, and back we go. Right, but that's driving it where the pedal is doing the engine revs and the transmission speed together. Now the way you would normally be driving it in the paddock, of course, in your orchard working, is you'll have your engine revs set for your PTO, and then your pedal will just be operating your speed. So, and the weird thing about it is that the left pedal is your accelerator pedal. So there's your revs there. The right pedal is the brake. Don't ask me why. It's an isolator switch there. We've added these two gauges in the cab there. They're for the 3-point linkage, so the lift side of the 3-point linkage cylinders. Now one is direct to the cylinder, and one is to the accumulator, which we've added to the cylinder. So at the moment we've got the suspension turned on. That's this switch here, and that turns it off, right? So if we turn the suspension on, both these gauges will go together. So if we raise it up, pressure comes up, right, they're both reading the same. We let it down, and they both go down together. Right? Right, they read the same pressure. Now if we turn this down pressure on, now we can push down with the joystick, and it'll actually lift the tractor in the air. You can see that happening or not, but the tractor's actually coming in the air now. Okay, and if I go back this way, it's coming back up again. Right. Now when I do that, as I raise it, you'll see one gauge will come up, this one's coming up, and that one's staying down, because that's telling you the pressure in the accumulator, that's telling you the pressure on the cylinder. When we turn that switch on, then they both will be the same. Right. So there it goes there. Okay. And when you turn that on, also you don't have your down pressure, it turns off as well. Okay, so quite a simple system. When you put it on the ground, I'd suggest, you know, when you're operating it, you'll have your suspension on. You'll have it on while you transport. I'd suggest you leave it on all the time actually. And when you let it down, you'll just put it down to the skids touch, right? And then you can just let the pressure down just a little bit more if you like, so that the skids are touching the ground, but the tractor is still carrying the weight and allowing it to just float a little bit if there's a slight variation in the ground, you know, undulations, uneven ground, whatever. Okay, now to turn on your PDO, if I try to turn it on now, it won't. See, it flashes, right? Because I haven't got the revs correct. It comes up with that green arc there. See, between 1200 to 1400 revs. Right? You've got to have your revs in there to allow it to turn on. So we adjust our revs up. So we put it in. We have it in the start position. We bring our revs up into the green arc. Right, so you know, 1300 revs. Around there, doesn't. As long as it's between that 1200 to 1400 revs, and then we can turn the PDO on. Now, as we turn it on, I'm going to turn around here to watch that clutch pack pressure. You'll hear the motor load up. Unfortunately, I can't watch the rotor and the pressure at the same time, but you'll hear it start to spin up onto it. So I might open this door, this window, so we can hear a little better. So I'm going to flick it on now. Ready, set, go. Hear it loading up. Look down there, you can probably see your rotor loading up. Come back here, there's our pressure. We said 80 psi, but that's more like 50 psi. And then, there you go, up she goes. So that might be a little bit there, a little bit. So now we've got our PDO fully engaged, but we're only doing our 1300 revs still, and then we wind our knob to bring our revs up to, I think, 2100 revs. And I might close that door now, keep a little bit of noise out. Okay, so there it is all working, and these levers here, which we've added inside the seat here, they're the pilot control for that Brevani valve that I mentioned, and that operates those feed-in rollers at the front. So as I push this lever here forward, you'll see that start to turn, and the further I push it forward, the faster it goes. Okay. And you can just set that speed wherever you want. You can feel neutral, and then you've got reverse there as well. And that's the same, that one there does your sweepers as well. Okay. And now, if I wind the revs down, or the revs come down low enough, it'll automatically turn off the PDO. Otherwise I can just turn it off myself. But see, if I just wind the revs down, you'll find it's already just switched off the PDO. Okay? Now the Mulcher's just winding down itself on its own. You can see it winding down there. Okay. Yeah, so steering there, that's four-wheel steer. So I'll just pick up this Mulcher again. And just pick it up in the air a bit. Now, when we're driving, that's four-wheel steer. And see on here, you've got those little, they're red at the moment. That's telling you, like, there's the front axle and the rear axle. And they're both, the fact that they're red means that they're not in a straight line. So as I turn the wheel, you will see the wheel moving out there. As I turn the wheel, see there's the rear axle, oh, there, they're both lined up there now. Okay, so that means they're both in a straight line. Because what you can do here is, if I set this over to this side, then it's crab steering then. So it's doing that there, and same back there, you know, to make it crab steer. Alright, so if I now bring it back straight again to the light comes on. There we go. And if I get the back light so that it's on green, and then I flick it onto the front. So now the back will stay where we left it, which is in the centre, and then I can align the front to be, you know, get it with the green light on. Right, there it is. And then we flick it into 4-wheel steer. And now, as we turn that one that way, the back one will go that way. As I straighten that one, this one will straighten. So go left, and that one goes that way. Okay, so that's how you'd normally use it, but you just got to know how to calibrate it to get them both the green coming on at the same time. They don't have to be precise. If I turn very slowly there, you watch one will go out ahead of the other. Not much, you know, but you generally want them calibrated. Otherwise, if they're not calibrated, it's not going to drive straight. It's going to crab a little bit. Okay. Now, to drive, let's say, you know, when you got your PDO on and your revs set, we can drive off the pedal. At the moment, the pedal's doing engine revs, but once your PDO is on and your engine revs are set with that, then the pedal will just do the ground speed. And this here, now I think my understanding of that is that controls the motor, not the pump. That restricts the swash plate angle on the motor, I think. I could be wrong about that. But either way, if you screw that down, that will slow you down. It restricts your maximum speed. So instead of doing, I don't know what speed it does in first gear, it might do 9k an hour perhaps, and if you want to say set that so the maximum is 5k, then you wind that down. Now there's also this here which sets, see that it says 100% there above the speed, that restricts that. And I've got to read up on the manual about what that does, but that also affects your speed. So sorry, I haven't fully got that one worked out yet, but anyway, we've got Stefan. He's a hydraulic guy. He's French, and his wife is going to. We've got to actually translate some of the instructions to do with this dash panel here. We've got a operator's manual in English and workshop manual, but all the instructions to do with this Plaisance obviously haven't got around to translating yet, but we're going to have that done very shortly for you. Probably hopefully before you receive the tractor even, it'll be emailed to you, and yeah, we should be able to explain that in proper detail then. In the meantime, we'll just go through the rest of what we know. That's really the only thing I'm uncertain about, is that percentage thing. Everything else I think I've got sorted. The joystick, it's got the switch there for your forward and reverse. That raises the linkage, raises the mulcher. That lowers it, of course. That does your top link. Moving the joystick left and right, there's your top link, in and out. And then these buttons here do the remotes, okay, which we haven't got anything plugged into at the moment. You'll probably use those to operate, the position of your sweepers, I would imagine. Okay, so they're only, on or off controls. They're not proportional, whereas these are all proportional, and they're only for operating cylinders momentarily. They're not for driving motors. As well, whereas these are intended for driving motors. Okay, so I think I've explained most things there. Now that there is a switch we've added to turn on the control for the Braveni valve, the electronic control. Now Stefan's going to come down. He's got to finish programming that cruise control to work, and train you up on that. But that turns it on and off, and then those there set the speed. So that's the electronic control for the same function that these do, except that when it's finished it's also going to work in with the cruise control. So when it comes under heavy load, you'll set your speed, let's say for your feed in there, set your speed for your sweepers there, in proportion to your speed, and then as the machine slows down, comes under heavy load, then it'll slow down your ground speed and also slow down your feeding speed, you know, until the rotor recovers. And then as you increase rotor speed, it'll increase, you know, your cruise speed again. But anyway, we'll explain that more when we come down, but at least you can work it in the meantime, operating, you know, just with the manual valve, which is, I'm sure that's all you ever need anyway. And the beauty of that is that if you have this fancy electronics player, you've got a simple, mechanical, reliable system to keep on working with. Everything else up here I think is straightforward. Radio, lights. Not sure there's anything else I need to explain to you. Just looking around here, fire extinguishers there. Yeah, I don't know. You'll probably have some questions, no doubt, but anyway, give us a call if you have. Otherwise, we'll go through it in more detail when we get down there. Okay, thanks mate.